Welcome to another episode of LogisticsSales.com, where today we're still talking about navigating job opportunities and focusing on researching opportunities. So stick around and let's get started. Welcome back, everyone. My name is Dean, and with me, as always, are my co-hosts, Damon.
Well, hello.
And Gail. So welcome back. As we said last episode, we started off with a new segment about navigating job opportunities, and we focused on assessing your skills and your interests. Today, we're going to take the next step into researching opportunities. So now that you know what your skills and interests are, the question is, which opportunities apply to best suit your needs? So we'll dive into it right away. What do you think about that, Damon?
I think we're going to learn a lot this episode. Definitely.
I definitely agree. But I think the first question that you need to ask yourself is, what is that ideal job? What is that perfect job that meets all the boxes of what you want to do with the rest of your life? So that kind of ties actually into the first question on the worksheet that we have. So if you haven't already, go ahead and open that up and download it and follow along for this episode. Question number 1 is, if you could design your perfect job, what would it be and what would it look like? This is your opportunity to sit down and really just brainstorm and think, okay, if I could be anything in the world, what would it be? And realistically, the sky is the limit. You know, there are all the jobs that are out there, somebody achieved it. So if it's something you're passionate enough about and you really have the drive to get that opportunity or get that job or build that business, you can definitely do it. So take a moment and really just decide, what does that perfect opportunity, that perfect job, that perfect life look like?
And I think it's important too, when you talk about designing your perfect job, if you're looking out there right now, and there's so many different search engines you can look online for these opportunities, remember, it's where do you see yourself doing, what you're doing. And it doesn't necessarily mean that if you designed this perfect job, you're going to apply for that job and start tomorrow, but it might, after assessing your skills and your interests, you kind of have a better idea of what industry you're looking at, maybe getting your foot in the door and starting towards that perfect job. And there's nothing wrong with, once you found an industry or you found a company or you started your own business and you're pursuing your sales journey, it starts with baby steps. And you mentioned it last episode too. It's you have to start moving. You have to be moving forward, I guess, to achieve those goals.
And the perfect job sometimes is a little bit overwhelming. Like, or am I really going to find the perfect job my first time around? My second time around, is it going to be the perfect job? Is it a continuous struggle that we may face in our lives? But again, don't feel too overwhelmed if you are getting kind of set on like finding the perfect job. It's a matter of making sure, like, one is just go back to the last episode to make sure you did the sheet from the last episode to make sure that you've been able to do some of the brainstorming. And so from that brainstorming, we narrowed it down to different industries. And it's important for, again, some of the viewers that may just be catching us today to understand that, there was an episode before this where some of that brainstorming part was done and we were able to narrow it down to industries. And now we're just kind of going a little bit deeper into it and saying, okay, well, last time it was about which industries do we narrow it down to. Now we know what to search for. And so when you're talking about the search engines or finding the perfect job, is making sure that we did the work before to be able to do the one that we're doing right now to find the perfect job for us.
Yeah. And if you really, look at it and you go, I can't figure out what is that perfect job. It's a little bit too out of reach right now for the work that we've kind of already put in. Think about, what's your perfect lifestyle? What kind of life do you envision for yourself? Maybe today, maybe 10 years from now. Because once you have an idea of that lifestyle you want to build, then all the other pieces, you can start filling in the gaps.
Yeah, and I think too, when we talk about this, it's really to just get you in the right frame of mind. From all our episodes, we've always talked about, helping you every step of the way on your sales journey. And when we talk about this one, when you design a perfect job, because you've gone through what industry works, now you're in the industry and you're looking for, applying for opportunities within that industry, it puts you in the mindset of being there. And I think that's a really important first step.
So it's important to take a look and say, okay, well, how do we get this worksheet completed? And you talked about job boards as well. So side by side, as you're doing the worksheet, we want you to be going and looking through search engines. Look at the job boards that are available in your area. Look at the government postings. Look at different industries and see what type of jobs may exist. There's platforms like LinkedIn that you can go on as well and start seeing, okay, well, if there's a certain company that interests you, now you can take a look and say, okay, well, what type of positions are in that company? And you're going to start seeing what type of professionals work within some of these organizations. And again, it's just one thing's going to keep leading to something else. But what we want you to do is kind of get that idea of what that perfect job looks like for you and start going into detail with it. There's going to be a lot of job descriptions that you come upon. Start writing down what the role requires in that situation. Okay, and don't take them too seriously either. A lot of times you're going to see a lot of overstatement on these job descriptions. And again, these are a lot of the wants. So they're not necessarily you have to have these certain skills, but it's, can you come close? Do you have even, 10%? Do you have 20%? And sometimes even there's so many people that are willing to train you to get into some of these positions that a lot of these things are going to be open for you. So even for example, going into question number 2, the perfect job, what are some positions that get you close to the ideal role in your field? And so if you see certain jobs that you are interested towards, well, say, okay, well, if I can't get that one exact job, is there an entry level position available in that company? Well, how do I find an entry level position in that company? Well, I can start doing the LinkedIn search and say, okay, put in that company, see what other jobs pop up. I can go to any job board, and if I see that description for one company, and I say, okay, well, hey, man, that's a really great position and it pays really well, has great benefits, it has all the things that I want, that I'm looking for, it has this flexibility. Oh, I could go to the office 50% of the time and work from home half the time. It really fulfills this work-life balance for me. But take a look and see what else jobs are available for that same company. Again, there's so many opportunities that are available to us. It's a matter of just going out and looking for them.
And we did this before too, where we were looking at talking to friends and family when we were looking at in certain industries that were of interest to us. You would have had that chance if you found somebody within your network that was doing something that you want to pursue. Probably you would have been able to ask the questions, and if they're doing that job that you absolutely want to do, you'll know the roadmap from them as well, because they didn't start in that position. So you'll get a good, fundamental knowledge of what you need to do if you wanted to say follow in their footsteps. And you'll know that if they're now the president of a certain company, and you'll find out, well, when I first started there, I started answering phone calls, and then I slowly did that. So it's really important to not just know the industry and look for the opportunities, but finding any opportunity to get closer to that goal.
Yeah. And I think when you look at a job, say if you wanted to be president or CEO of XYZ company, look at the opportunities that might be there that may not fit the exact ideal of what your dream job is, but are going to give you those learning steps in order to become the perfect candidate for that job. So for example, if you wanted to become CEO, well, maybe doing office administration is your first stepping stone, or working on one of the operations teams and learning the ins and outs of the business and what makes it tick. Those are going to be the stepping stones in order to get you to where you want to go.
Yeah, you definitely want to understand that if you want to be the CEO, you need to understand and know the inner dealings of not just a department, but the entire organization. So to do that, you're probably going to have to get your foot wet in human resources or administration, finance, and everything else. So,
and I think ultimately, when you look at a job in that kind of aspect, it's going to make you not just a good candidate, but the best candidate. Because there's sometimes people that have all these skills and they have the background experience that it's like, oh, this looks like a really good fit. But when you sit there and you do the work for a company, it teaches you how that they operate and how everything's run. And it gives you the inside knowledge in order to become not just successful, but absolutely phenomenal at that role when you get to those higher levels. So definitely look at those opportunities that are there, maybe on the medium to lower level, and see what you'd be interested in, what would be a good fit.
Yeah, like what Dean was saying earlier as well, just about reaching out to your network. And even if people aren't really directly in your network, we get this all the time as well. I mean, how many times have we been approached by different students or different people inquiring about even our positions and saying, hey, we want to learn more about what you're doing. And same thing, and 9 times out of 10, we're if we know that the person has enough interest, we're more likely to help and sit there and guide them and let them know what our industry is all about. And same thing like we do even in this program. Like there's people like us that are willing to share our experiences with you, and there's so many other people out there that do the same. People do that with us. Like there's so many inquiries that I personally do with people that are in different positions just to learn about what they're doing, and just it's out of curiosity. And people are so willing to actually share that information with us.
And that brings us to our third question here. For number 3, when reviewing job descriptions, what non-negotiables do you look for? You know, you talk about wages or, growth opportunities, your hours, your benefits. Do you want to work on site, or do you want to work at home, or maybe a hybrid position? So, it's okay to look at those and find out, okay, I'm in this industry, I'm passionate about it, but these are some things that I actually is a must. I mean, if you have to live a certain quality of life, depending on where you're living, there's a certain wage that is one of them that's probably going to be pretty important to you as you're pursuing these goals.
And something I talked about is when you're going after something that you want, how do you really figure out what you really want if you're not 100% sure? And sometimes just doing the wants, you find out what you don't want. And so that's another way to kind of figure out, okay, well, these are the things I don't really want. I don't want to be working outdoors. I don't want to be away from home for too long. Okay, so that's going to help you narrow down to, well, what you do want. So what you do want is, okay, working more closer to home. I want to be working within this much distance of traffic time, maybe. There's so much time I want to spend with family. So realizing what you don't want is going to help you realize what you do want. That's also going to kind of lead you into some of these questions here as well.
Yeah, that actually brings us right into question number 4, which is what type of work environment do you thrive in? Some people really are team players. That's where they thrive. It's their bread and butter. They come in, they work in the team environment, and they're just ready to hit the ground running. But some people work more independently, and maybe they want to have that work from home environment where they can be with their friends and their families during their work hours, and then be able to also get the work done. So it really just depends what kind of person you are and what is most important for you in that kind of balance of how you like to do your work. So take a minute and figure out, okay, if I got this job, what's the ideal setting for me?
And it really is, as you go through these, and again, hopefully you take your time to go through it a little bit more in detail once we're done the episode. These are all meant to give you laser focus on exactly where you're going. And I think it's important to stress that on a lot of these when we go through these questions. You just don't want to answer them and move on. Reflect on what you're writing down and why.
And you can even use what we're going through here today. When you are starting to apply for these jobs, they're going to ask you questions like, why are you interested in this position or this role? So already having an idea of what those answers are going to be not just astronomical for finding the right opportunity, but for getting that opportunity in the long run.
And I think what you're referring to also is like the clarity. Is when you go into, let's say we get into an interview type of situation and someone is asking those questions, people want to make sure that you're clear on what you want. And because we always talk about the level of vibration and we say, authenticity is the highest level of vibration. How do you get to an authentic level? You have to have the knowledge. You have to have done your research. Don't just apply for any job for the sake of applying for any job and to accept anything that comes your way. But this is your chance to get specific and to really design the life that you want to create for yourself. And so that's where authenticity comes from, having the inner knowledge and the knowingness. How do you have the knowingness? Is by doing some of the exercises that we're doing here. And so even when you go through exercises 1 through 4, questions 1 through 4, number 5 is now you're kind of compiling that together. And from your research, now you're really writing the jobs that really interest you. And this list, we only have a couple here, but you can make this list as long as you want it to be. Right? There's might be lots of things that excite you. Like if you see, when I sometimes look at some of these sales jobs, I mean, they easily start at 6 figures, 100,000, 200,000, 300,000, sometimes $500,000 plus. And you just get excited by looking at these numbers like, wow, how do I get these opportunities? And, I'm sure there's other people that are probably looking at the same. So write down as many jobs as you want and do it in different industries too, right? It doesn't have to be just one.
You make a great point, Damon, with especially the authenticity. When you're doing your research and you're acquiring that information, you're not, just having these scripted responses because you're speaking from your heart. And when having been a hiring manager throughout, in other positions that I've been in, when you have an interview and you're asking potential applicant questions, and they're knowledgeable in their responses, and it's just not, them looking online, typical questions to ask in an interview. So I threw that process out of the way, and I just like to have conversation with an individual. And if you can have a good conversation and articulate why you want to do this. And now as a hiring manager, you're listening to somebody tell them that I love this industry. I've wanted to work for your company for a long time for these reasons. That's going to make you that much more attractive rather than just these scripted responses. So being genuine, authentic, and knowledgeable will take you a long way in the process.
And just to add on as well, I think a lot of the time when you have done that research and you're coming at it from an authentic place, it actually opens up different opportunities that may not be out there for everybody else. If you reach out to a hiring manager and say, hey, look, I'm interested in doing this for your company, and I know you do A, B, and C, and this is what I can bring to the table, you're going to have a much better chance than somebody who's just like, hey, I would like a job at your company. It gives you that added advantage because they know that you're passionate about it. They know that you're invested in doing the work and having that role. And even if there is no position available, do you think they're going to think about you next time a role comes available? Probably. We've seen it with drivers before where they just message saying, hey, I would like a driving job. Now, what would be the difference if you said, hey, I would like a long haul driving job and I have, all of this skill sets and I have this many miles under my belt? We see that with our drivers. Those types of applicants are going to go to the top of the pile every single time.
Great point, Gail. That takes us right into number 6. Now, what skills do you need to qualify for those positions? And one thing that I realized too is that even though you may not be qualified for the position that you're going into, as long as you've done the research and you're kind of having this conversation and know how passionate you are about the position, what they can also do is help teach you the steps in order to get there. So you may not get the ideal job right away, but if you meet someone that's good enough, or that's willing to educate you, and they will, it's just they need to see that passion from you, and you have to have the courage to even be able to ask and say, hey, what, can you please guide me into how to get to this type of position? And is there a place that I could start to eventually build my skill set up to get this type of position? So again, all these opportunities are open to you. It's just a matter of, are you willing to ask and are you willing to do the research for it? And
I think a lot of it just comes down to being genuine. If you go into an interview and you say, hey, look, I have 10 of these 12 qualifications down pat, but these two, I'm not 100%, but I'm willing to learn. It really, that's never going to be a deal breaker. As long as you have that can-do attitude and you're coming at it from the right place and you're honest about it, most hiring managers look at that as almost an asset because it shows that you're willing to be honest about things that may not be in your wheelhouse, but that you have the willingness to go out there and learn and do what it takes to become that person that they're looking for.
Yeah, and when you've got to that point in the process through the business opportunities, I'm looking at question number 7 about if you don't already have the skills necessary, what steps will you need to take to become ready for these roles? By now, you would have already done the research on your skills and your interests, your passion, the industry you want to be in, and now you're in front of a hiring manager and you're talking to them. Once you get the opportunity, I think it's really important to know that once you're in there and you're putting in the work, knowing what your skills were, you are passionate about this role that you're doing, so you're going to be putting in the work. And the harder you work, the skills that you don't have, they're also, as you were touching on, willing to invest in it. A lot of companies will help with your education because they're looking to help build future successful leaders with their company, because that makes their company a big success, and of course in turn makes you a big success. So it's important to know that if I don't have all the skills yet, I know I can do this, and I'm going to learn the on-the-job training when you get there anyway. So don't sell yourself short. Look at these opportunities and go all in, and people will see the effort you're putting forward.
And there's lots of ways to get the skill sets, and that's one thing to understand is when you start exploring into it again, you're going to realize that, okay, I can get my skill sets through whether it's a current employer. Sometimes current employers have programs in place to allow for educational grants to be given to the employees. Secondly, sometimes the companies are willing to train, right? It's just a matter of getting your foot in the door and then, allowing for those opportunities, but you have to be able to voice it too. You have to put your hand up and say, hey, I'm willing to go to the next level. I'm willing to put in the work. I'm willing to take the time outside of work time to put my effort into studying. And then there's student loans. right? So there's government assistance. There's sometimes unemployment agencies are always reaching out to us as well, saying, hey, we have this grant to offer your employees. We have this to offer your employees. So if you don't have post-secondary education, there's a lot of grants that are available by government to also support you in that journey. So you just never know where that income is going to come from and where that money is going to come from to be able to support your skill sets and development.
So now that we've kind of gone over most of the questions on the worksheet today, I just wanted to remind everyone to now take some time and actually go through some of those job boards that are either in your area or online and see what's out there. Take a look and then go through each one and go through it well. Like, go and do a deep dive. I mean, that's one thing that I've seen a lot of the time. You know, Dean had some experience as a hiring manager. I used to vet candidates at one of my old previous jobs as well. And sometimes people apply without even really understanding what they're applying for. The real difference maker is when you have done that research. You know, we talk about it in sales all the time. You have to come prepared. You have to do the research. So if you are going through those applications or those postings, see what are they looking for? What are the skill sets that they're looking for? And what are the job duties that it's going to require? When you go into an interview with that information, it's your ammunition. You can use that to ace that interview. So make sure that you're going through them thoroughly, and then you're going to nail those interviews, which we're going to be getting into next.
Yeah, great point, Gail. So by now, hopefully you've figured out which opportunities are best for you. You've gone and done your homework, and our next episode, we're going to start touching on how to tailor your application so you stand out above all the rest. So hope you enjoyed today, and we look forward to seeing you soon. Take care.